I've spent the last year building an AI system that actually runs my consultancy, my agency Prometheus. CRM, proposals, client intelligence, meeting processing. We've got agents embedded in our entire operation. And today I want to show you what it looks like, and particularly parts of it that run a core part of our muscle, and how I work with the agent regularly to process sales conversations and use agent intelligence to make me as a founder more efficient. Because here's what I've learned is that a lot of folks can talk about AI tools and they can create content and they can show you that stuff is awesome and then sell you a course. But this is my agency, so I can show you the real stuff. The real business, the foundations that we've built, what we leverage to do it, maybe show you some interesting stuff for why you might need it for yourself. My agency builds AI systems for companies across lots of different industries. Financial services, manufacturing, professional services, and we work in the middle market and with some enterprises. And one of the core things about AI right now is that it's moving so fast, and potentially faster than what companies can even adopt into their human processes. And so as an AI native agency, we try to stay ahead of the curve and implementing things that hopefully 69 months from now, enterprises or middle market companies are ready to actually implement. And so anything that we recommend to clients, we have leveraged that capability on us first. So if I'm going to ask a company to test something with AI and pilot it and integrate it and pay for it, with that relationship, I need to have them trust me long term. And so right now, the best way to know that some of these things actually work, the way that we sell them and the way that we talk about them, is to test them on ourselves. So if you want to architect something like this, there's a link in the description below. Let's book a free audit. I'll jump on a call with you and we'll discuss your unique business and why something like this may or may not work for you in particular. But let's walk through it first so you can see what the opportunity is. So let me give you some context first for why I built this. Here's an example conversation that I have with clients. No one client in particular, but it's not crazy to think that this is the type of thing that we hear on a day-to-day basis being in the AI transformation space. Let's say it's a manufacturing CEO, sharp, good leadership, built and scaled companies before. And most of the times when we're talking with leaders, the CEOs, the visionaries of the companies, they come to us with a shopping list. All of the cool stuff that they've brainstormed in their own models, curious and passionate about where to implement AI first. AI answering phones, an on-premise NVIDIA server, cameras analyzing every work stream, a smart knowledge base, automated invoicing, AI processing emails for the team, and maybe even getting into robots. Look, these are the types of things that CEOs across various industries, particularly in the manufacturing, consumer, home services, and logistics and distribution categories that we work with a lot, are asking these exact questions. And they have these ideas and they're super passionate about them. But every manager in these organizations are often assigned a goal or a target that's associated with AI. And basically, these folks are asked, go find an AI project. Each of these folks find a project independently. It's not necessarily mapped to a shared objective, and there's no real flow for how these things are going to interact together. So CEOs say things to me like, we have all this data. We know some is unstructured, we have a lot is structured, but how do we make it AI-able or agentic or leverageable for AI? These types of sentences are the things that we hear. This is the problem. Leaders know they have data. They know that AI can help them. It's just a theory. How do you have a foundation and you have things where if you map all these things together, then regardless of the format, AI can use it and you can have real growth in your business. So look, these folks, they're smart people. They're good leaders, but oftentimes we see this mistake every time. They start with tools instead of architecture. So this is what I'm going to show you. It's the architecture so that you as a leader can know this is the type of thing that we've got to think about. Knowing your unique business, your unique objectives, here is where we start. And so I want to prove it to you by showing you my architecture. And look, 6 months from now, the architecture may change, but I bet what we've built is scalable for future architecture that will continue to have a significant impact for my business and therefore is an excellent representation of the type of architecture that you're going to need in your business. And so the best way to prove it is for me to show it to you. Real, in my operation, using it and showing you how I use it every day. So let's pull it up and dig in. So let's get into the architecture. And I do want to pull up some specific tools. But first, let's look at this diagram because these reference points are very important for how we've seen agents to be successful in our business and how we build them for clients. Because here's the deal. These areas are functional roles. Some are agents, some are categories of technology that are needed. So don't get held up on the specifics for what I use to build mine versus the areas that are significantly important to make sure that you have examples for in your business. One of the key things also to think through here is that for my business, we leverage Slack internally and externally with partners for a core component of how we work and function. So I wanted to interact with Slack and an agent to help run my business. Think about certain capabilities like updating HubSpot or brainstorming with me on a meeting transcript and what to do with it, or actually maybe even helping me to prepare for my one-to-ones, or updating data dashboards that we use for scorecard tracking. Those are just some of the examples of the types of things that I do on a day-to-day basis to make sure that on my sales efforts, I'm staying at schedule, maybe moving faster than my competition, having context that's completely necessary to help win work, and having an agent that's plugged into my systems in real time to actually begin work for me while I continue on my day-to-day with client services type calls, new sales efforts, or just the typical day-to-day of running a technology agency. So now that you're seeing the visual of what we're talking about, I think one of the core things that I just want to start with is that this agent I'm calling Pyre. It was used in Greek mythology. My agency name is Prometheus. Sort of made sense. If you don't know what it is, we'll tell you right here real quickly. But look, this diagram is basically representing all of my agent, even though there may be, call it sub-agents or mini-agents within the system that works. But let me direct you to the orchestration layer first. This is the single persistent process that keeps my entire agent alive. Everything runs through it. Nothing ever makes it stop. It's always going. It's on a virtual machine, and this is the core thing that helps make it 24/7. This orchestration layer handles multiple responsibilities. It's listening in Slack for how I'm talking to it. It then actually processes real scheduled jobs, which I'll talk about that later. I have about 5 things that I've asked for it to do on a regular basis to help me in my day-to-day from an efficiency perspective. And then it also acts as an approval handler. It actually can be proactive and come to me and talk to me in a way and suggest certain things based on all of the data that it's processing. One of the key things that Moltbot did, if you're aware of that trend that happened over the past month or so, is that I think it reoriented how we want to access AI, mainly through the devices that we talk through all the time. A lot of the things that we're talking about here are a safe and effective way to have that similar experience. However, there's some smaller nuances to it that it's not really called Moltbot, but it is a customized version of an agent that performs very similar efforts for my agency. I think one other thing that's very key to understand is that you'll see in the orchestrator is that there is a meta agent and that approval gate. The meta agent reads messages, looks at my context layer, if you see at the very bottom of the diagram, and picks which agents are needed to then accomplish the tasks that are being set in my communication channel. Orchestration is critical. The context layer is the next critical piece. In between those two primary sources of work is the meta agent, which sole responsibility is just to send the job to an agent. And you'll see in my diagram where there's multiple types of agents that are performing various efforts and work for me. And this is where the possibilities are endless. Pyre is my entire ecosystem, is allowing me to create agents currently myself, and also has the capabilities to spin up its own agents based on the types of efforts that we need to occur. One key piece that I want to now focus on is the data foundation. Context layer, small pieces of information that allows the LLM to function. Its long-term memory is bringing in multiple data sources. data from conversations within my team, which include calls, transcripts, context and information from my CRM, which is HubSpot, how I'm talking to the agent itself. It's restoring and looping back that information into the context layer so that that knowledge base remains in how the AI functions. And ultimately, other sources can go into this context layer, like emails, drive folders, any other type of markdown information that you want. This is the layer and the muscle that works for me while I'm working. So a transcript happens, for instance. It'll come in and suggest what needs to happen with that transcript. Is it a new call? Yes. Or is it a new client? Yes. Great. Actually go and do these things. Update this in HubSpot. Create this proposal based on the information. Use these templates. And then send it back to me to review while I'm still carrying on my day-to-day. So now that you've seen the diagram, let's take a step back and just think about the core of this system. The whole brain of this thing right now is built on Anthropic's Claude, using multiple models to perform various tasks and using their SDK agent platform to connect and perform these efforts on a virtual machine. I have the option to plug in other tokens and other APIs, depending on maybe other tasks and things that are needed. But for now, Anthropic is performing essentially everything that I need to currently. Again, it handles the knowledge querying, the proposal drafting, sales enablement, meeting summarization, automatic updates in HubSpot, whatever the muscle is that I need to function at a high clip and a quick effort to run my business. That's what is in this system. I think the other key thing that for middle market leaders and other entrepreneurs who may operate on an EOS type system like we do, this platform also helps me with my one-to-one prep, with my L10 issues, and provides objectivity from a data perspective across all of my agency operations and meetings to help us get ahead of issues with clients so that we can be high performing in our human touch points. So you can imagine in an agency context how multiple sales conversations happen. There's lots of data that's processed. And for a high growth agency like ourselves, we're constantly writing proposals, whether it's in a Word document, a PowerPoint, Google Slides, Google Doc, whatever the format is. That's sort of what our key function is. Everything is unique. Nothing can be overly templatized because each business and client is unique, and we want that to show up in how we plan to work with our clients from day one. Before I built this, every sales call was essentially leading to a new manual effort. However, now not only can Pyre take my transcripts and go and update my CRM for me so that I have objective real-time data pipeline updates, it can now also begin drafting my proposals for me based on a bank of content that I've given it in my context layer and in my Google Drive. And here's the third thing. I've given Pyre its own access to a shared drive folder. It can create documents and place them there for me and then tell me when it's updated for me to review before I then go and actually, hands on keyboard, send these details to our clients and our prospects. So you're probably thinking, is this expensive to operate on the token perspective? Well, for most things, I use Sonnet. If you're talking about actually understanding transcripts and that data and what should happen with it, the things that we need to go actually implement in HubSpot, those are things that are relatively cheap and very cost efficient. But there are some more powerful models that I need to tap into for other efforts. The symptom prompts are identical, and my agent ecosystem allows these things to be routed correctly so that the right model is called for the task and the effort that I'm trying to achieve. So here's the other fun thing that I've built. I mentioned previously about some specific orchestration reminders. These are just automations or cron jobs that basically are set up in the agent's memory bank to run on a regular basis based on how my routines typically start. When I walk into the office, I have a briefing in my Slack channel of emails that I may have missed yesterday or that may have come through over the evening, things that require a follow-up, an update on my HubSpot, what deal flows need to be updated or contacts need to be updated, maybe some task reminders and follow-ups that need to occur based on various things that we did. You can see how now quickly these systems that I'm using to track performance and leverage for my business, now all of a sudden I'm interfacing with them through an agent. This is the future. This is now. Instead of logging into these various systems, my agent is doing it for me in a system that I work in regularly. The other key thing in a different channel that's happening in Slack, by the way, is another job will run where Pyre understands the business context of Prometheus. What are we trying to accomplish as a business? What things are happening that are mapping back to those things correctly? Do I have a one-to-one that day? What type of prep need to happen? Do we have L10? What type of issues have come up since our last L10 that we may need to think through, or that we have data on that we can process collectively as a leadership team? Now, all of a sudden, that data in real time is given to me in a way that I can talk to, that I can prep with, and that I can quickly get into formats that are usable for my human one-to-ones and process my own intuition with real objective-based information that's happening in my business on a real-time basis. So I was telling you about the cool things that we're able to do. Let me now tell you about the data layer that I honestly pretty started with, but it's not the coolest thing. This is the layer that makes or break everything that we're talking about. It's the one that people skip. You need a real database ecosystem, house, we'll just call it the code, but then you need a real context layer that can fragment or chunk out this information in a way that allows the models to flourish and perform with high capability. AI is really an amplifier, so with clear signals, they're amplified. Noisy signals, AI is just going to spit back noise. We don't want louder noises, we want clear, simplicity, speed, velocity, and whatever it is your business context. So look, if I just took my shared drive and pointed AI at it currently, it would be terrible. Nothing would work. The data is not formatted correctly. It's not in a way that AI can understand. There's drafts in there. There's old stuff, old transcripts. So not only is the data in a format that AI can't understand, which is going to cause issues, but I haven't done the work to make sure that the AI knows exactly what is needed. That's where really good rules to update your context layer come into play. Documents, for instance, may only need to be included in the context layer when it's finalized, versus call transcripts and the evolution for our business of how we talk with folks on the prospect and client side are real time and need to be there because that's a key component of how we work and function and can have real objectivity and speed in how our team is functioning. Here's what's crazy. Actually, most people hear this and it's a little overwhelming. You think I've got to clean all of my data before we're actually able to use AI. You do need to clean some data eventually, but don't start there necessarily. Start by moving forward. See the capability. Get some clean data in the system that's easy. Start putting your transcripts there and start moving forward with clean data. Then figure out, once you've seen all the muscles and the types of things that you want to use with the system, let's start adding in more context. That's something that our team has even been doing over the past 45 to 60 days. Adding in the right context, the right clean mechanisms to allow AI to flourish even more with a better foundation. So let's dork out for a second. My context layer is something that we've built proprietary at Prometheus that's unstructured intelligence. Context, meeting insights, proposal patterns, communication preferences. You can see it in natural language, and these are the things that are easy for the AI to pick and call up quickly. But we also have a structured database. You can see that on the diagram. That's Supabase, which is Postgres SQL. This is operational data, agent logs, approval queues, cost tracking, larger tables and models that are necessary. And the question is, why do you need both? Here are really the reasons why. The memory layer actually answers it first, and the database answers second of what do we know and what happened. And look, this is something that we're really proud of here. Every piece of data that enters my memory system is validated at the code level. So that means that every memory must include where it came from, when it was created, and the confidence level that it's accurate. So if you try to add memory that doesn't have those key pillars to it, again, where it came from, when it was created, and the confidence level of it, then there's going to be issues and there's going to be an error in the system. The bad data is not going to be accepted. Hopefully you can sort of see why both context layer and structured database is necessary for a core memory and a real-time specificity on the structuring side to allow those two processes to work together. There's accountability in the system. So you'll remember on my diagram that below the orchestration layer, there's actual multiple agents that have been built that are doing things for me that again are briefed by the meta agent. So pipeline agent runs when I ask about deals. Proposal agent runs when I ask for a proposal. Briefing agent runs morning automatically to assess what's happened and create specific things, again, that goes into my Slack channel. This is all considered Pyre and various channels in Slack that I'm able to engage with it, because that, for instance, is what allows the meta agent portion to know how to then brief in and pull in the right agent based on the function that I'm trying to achieve in real work. Here's the next unlock that we've built and that we're already starting to see dividends on. We enabled Pyre with its own build agent. So imagine a world where it's the weekend and I'm just talking to my agent on Slack, mention one little thing to it. Maybe it's a conversation that I had at a social relationship gathering with a friend in the community talking about AI, pings an idea or pings a follow-up. I talk to it and it starts to work, see some stuff that runs into an error. Let's say for whatever reason, it can't connect to HubSpot correctly, even though the credentials are correct. What it now has the capability to do is with a build agent is go troubleshoot those issues and implement its own code, ask for approval to actually submit it, and then it fixes itself. It's proactive. It's building on its own, still with human in the loop. That is very critical for the security and the governance of how I want to work before I start to turn over things into a fully agentic system where there may be some things I just don't even really want to be on the loop on. Right now, I'm pretty in the loop on most things, but it's just a quick approval cycle, and we keep rolling from there. Look, that's the system. I'm not showing you how I built it or the tools that I used, but the pieces that are important for a system like this, executively and agentically, to have key pieces of my business and provide a significant muscle for how I work. You could build something like this yourself, or you could leverage someone like me who's already built it to deploy it for you in your business, train you on it, and then deploy it for other folks in the organization. But look, every tool I mentioned is available today, and the conversation layer, that's adaptable. Do you want to text with it? Do you want to email with it? Do you just want to talk with it? Those are open and endless. You could even use Microsoft Teams, for instance, if you'd like to. The hardest part is not necessarily the tools, but it's knowing how you want to work, what you're trying to achieve, and those really map back to your business objectives and your individual objectives. For me, for instance, this quarter, I had a significant rock around how to move more agentic motions on the sales effort to diminish my time on sales processes. And this is a key piece right now where agents, AI agents in particular, can help me so that when I go and make the next business development hire, he's getting his own instance of this Pyre. You may call it Pyre 2.0 or David's Pyre if his name is David. He's not David. My last name is Davidson, so it just made sense. But look, the way you work, the way that you want to go back and forth, that's all of a sudden a creative opportunity for your own agent system. So if you want to have agent systems like this for your company, you can see below my meeting link, book a call, and let's chat. Or take a screenshot of my diagram and see if AI can build it for you. You might get really close, but call me when you run into some issues.